All right, what is going on, everyone? And welcome back to another Black Desert video. So by the time you see this, we probably have the new season, summer season of 2023 starting, and we'll be doing some of that. But what I wanted to talk about today was how I go about setting goals and planning my gear progression. Now, what brought this up was a lot of people actually come and ask me, how do I go about gearing and what should I do next? And so I wanted to take it step by step on how you guys can do it and how I go about doing it. So I have a Discord and you guys can find that down there. And we have a channel for gear help and all that stuff. So I'm happy to help everyone. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask, leave it in the comments and all that stuff. Happy to help you. But here's how I go about doing it. So let's say you are a new player, right? And when you're a new player, obviously gearing up is a lot easier than once you get to end game. And one piece of gear literally takes you months of progression. And so generally my rule of how to go about gearing and setting up goals is get the cheapest or get the most stats you can for the cheapest amount of silver. So for example, let's take accessories, right? Usually the difference between next level of accessory is 3 AP, assuming you were going the AP route, of course. So if we look at this, for example, let me just take two examples. If we look at the Bassi belt, from Tet to Pen is 3 AP difference, right? And so a Pen Basilisk belt is 55 billion. We'll just take that for easy numbers. And of Crescent Ring, if we look at it, usually that's the difference between 3 AP as well. But this one suddenly is between, well, I guess it's a little bit higher than 55, right? So usually I look at that and then figure out, okay, so which one's cheaper, but also gives me the same stats at the same time. And my overall, like, view of things and the way I've seen, like, progression goes is usually you'll get your rings first, followed by maybe a belt and then your necklace, and then earrings are always going to be last because there's a lot more flexibility and you guys can choose what you want. But so let's talk about this from a beginner's perspective, and you're probably coming out of seasons with like Tuvala gear or something. I don't actually know. I've scattered all my Tuvala gear randomly. So let's say you are full pen, right? And then you're working on Jatinas. We're not going to talk about how to get the Jatina stuff because I have an entire video dedicated for that. But then you're probably wondering, okay, should I upgrade my gloves or shoes, armors, helmet first? And which is more important for the weapons? So a lot of these should be factored in as well. Like obviously what is cheaper and what is your next goal. And so setting goals is different because you have to ask, what do you plan on doing with that gear? So do you think you have low DP because you're trying to grind new spots and you're taking too much damage? Then upgrade your armors and then go from there. But do you want to try more spots with AP, but then you don't know how to go about weapons? And you're probably wondering, which is the order should I upgrade them from? So generally, when it comes to weapons, it's a little bit easier. And even if we don't use Black Star as an example, let's say we use like Zarka, Dandelion, and Kudum, the standard boss gear that most beginners to mid-tier players will use, right? So generally, I would say the main hand is your highest priority, even if you are awakening, because it gives you a lot of extra accuracy and it'll be a little bit more efficient for both PvE and PvE because you still do require a little bit of accuracy for some grind spots, and especially if you are grinding for more than 1 hour at your spot and then you get duel for spots and stuff. Sometimes that's just unavoidable and you have to like defend yourself. So accuracy always good. And something people don't really know about awakening weapons is that a fraction of the AP gets converted to main hand. So I don't exactly know what the percentage is, but like it's not sheet AP, it's more just like hidden AP that gets converted. So either way, whether you play Succession or not, I think the main hand followed by your Awakening followed by offhand is always the route. But you may be wondering, what is the priority for armors? So nowadays it's a little bit more straightforward because there's actual goals to get, and some are more cheaper, at least on NA. Well, so I'll be talking about this in terms of pricing for the North American servers at least. So the first thing most people will go for is the Red Nose armor, and then progressing that up into Fallen God's armor. The reason why we do that is because if you look at the flame prices, these are slightly cheaper and have more available. So the red flame, or the orange one, I guess, is for the armor piece, or the chest piece, and then the Flame of Frost is for the helmet, the Labresca one. And I guess it's a little bit more or less the same nowadays, but if you're getting it like more or less on time when you can't buy it off the market, it's a little bit cheaper, and we're going by order. So whichever one is cheaper. And then we also look at the market value to see, like, is it worth buying it versus making it yourself? Which one is more expensive, kind of thing. So in my opinion, the order I would go for is probably, let's say you're starting off with full boss armors, right? So Red Nose, Begs, Uragons, Griffin, Gaiath, or the evasion equivalent. So I would go for the armor, followed by the helmet, because you get those first in terms of progression afterwards. So boss gear up until Fallen God and Labresca, right? And then, as we all know, with the new region, we're going to be exchanging either the Liebers or the Beg's gloves into the, what is it called? Dawn or Dan's gloves, which is the equivalent of this, but in the upgraded form. And then the shoes will obviously be like 1 or 2 years down the line when they figure that out. And so, yeah. So that's overall like the basics of progression. But from my experience, just passing knowledge to you guys, if you're thinking about upgrading accessories and what order to go for, it should be rings, belt, or necklace, and then earring clasp. Now, one thing to talk about right now, this might be different on other servers if we look at accessories. People have always asked me, is it better to get Eye of the Ruins versus Tungred rings? Now that we all know the Monster Zone AP caps and stuff. And ultimately, it depends on the price. So if we look at Eye of the Ruins, it is almost, let's just say 80 billion for 20 AP and 130 HP. And then if we look at Tungrad's, it's 116. That's almost 40 billion more. And we get 1 extra AP. Now, if I was in the market for them right now in this place, in the current prices, I would absolutely go Eye of the Ruins first. Because I actually do value HP pretty highly. And going to like the difference between 40 billion for 1 extra AP, it's not really worth it, especially if you are PvE only, because at some point you can get your Monster Zone caps with just food and like elixirs, buffs, and everything else. But if you are doing PvP and you just have to min-max everything, then I think it's the better choice. So you have to ask yourself, what is the better option for you? And so I guess the entry level one would be a Crescent Ring, upgrading into a Tungrad or an Eye of the Ruins. I think for your average player nowadays, I would probably go for Eye of the Ruins, but ultimately personal preference. I actually got my Tungrads when they were not 120 billion. And in terms of the accuracy route, up to you. I don't think the ring is the best one. I think if you're going accuracy, you're probably going to choose the necklace and the belt for that one. It just gives the best trade-offs for stats. And so necklaces Obviously, Deboreka is the best in slot for AP. Lunar is very good for accuracy. I do think people should consider looking into these, and it's one of those things where you may see it and you're just like, oh, 31 AP, you're trading off 4 AP. That's an entire bracket for like 25 accuracy. At the very end of PvP, and when you're fighting like other geared players around your level, it is worth it. And then for everyone else, there's Ogre, Tungrad, and Leighton. Just get whichever one is the cheapest. Earrings, obviously, Black Distortions and Vaha's Dawns are the same thing, just 2 different items. And the other Dawn, I wish they would have named them 2 different things. Like, did you not think of another word besides Dawn? Like, literally anything else. But this is the accuracy route. I am not really too sure the trade-off in AP for that, because if you have distos, that's a lot of trade-off. So I don't think it's the best choice, but I do think the belt option is pretty solid. So best in slot AP, accuracy, and then everything else. So here's how I would go about progressing my things in terms of, let's say you have your order of how you made your gear and you know what you want to build. So work on one thing at a time. I know people like to do gear roulettes, and what that is basically like, let's say you want your first piece of pen gear, right? But all your other armors are Tet. You just keep slamming them all until one goes. My advice to you guys would be to click one at a time. And if it goes to pry, at least 4 pieces aren't pry, it's only 1. But work on 1 piece at a time, and then it feels more rewarding when you get it, instead of just going or doing drastic changes. Like, you have full Tet, and then the next day you're at full pry, and then maybe you're at try the next day. So work on 1 piece at a time, and that goes for both enhancing and buying your gear. And then look into the items that are cheaper for you. So if you guys have any questions, you can actually just look at it on the market yourself. But if you have any questions on how to go about various builds like DR, evasion, accuracy mixes, hybrids, I'm happy to help you. But at least if you're on the NA server, I can more or less verify and check prices. But if you're on other ones, for the most part, more stats, less money, the ultimate goal of it. Work on 1 piece at a time. Don't roulette stuff. And I think that's a good way to progress. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a quick like, and I will see you tomorrow. Also, maybe later in the day, from whenever you're seeing this, I'll probably be starting the new season. I don't know what character I'm going to be playing yet, so I'll have to think about this overnight, and we'll get something done. So stick around for that. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Peace.